Imagine stepping out your front door to walk the dog, and it is a chilly, just a completely overcast Tuesday morning.
Right.
You look down your totally normal, quiet suburban street, and you see the cracked concrete sidewalk, the bare winter branches scratching at the gray sky. Maybe there's a generic white sedan parked on the curb, and walking directly toward you is a man whose head has been replaced by a floating, rotating four-dimensional math equation.
Oh, man. The pure, visceral shock of that scenario, that is exactly the psychological space we are stepping into today.
Yeah.
It is a collision of the aggressively mundane with the absolute, unapologetically surreal.
Welcome to today's deep dive. We have 19 highly specific visual sources sitting right in front of us, and they all document this exact, totally bizarre phenomenon.
19 different images.
Right, 19 images, but one terrifyingly consistent subject. We are calling this entity the wielder of Rhomobhedronic fight tools.
It is quite a title.
It is, and the mission today is to tear these images apart, study the anatomy of this figure, and figure out what these massive golden tools they are carrying actually do.
Exactly.
Plus, we need to try and understand the bizarre way these images were actually created. So, okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
Looking at the background across all 19 of these sources, the first thing that hit me wasn't even the surreal geometry on the guy's shoulders.
What was it?
It was how utterly, almost depressingly familiar the environment is.
Oh, totally. That banality is doing a tremendous amount of heavy lifting here.
Yeah.
Think about it. If this figure were standing on a jagged obsidian cliff on some distant moon, or floating in a neon-lit cyberpunk alleyway, our brains would instantly categorize it.
Oh, for sure, as standard science fiction art.
Right. The background would contextualize the subject.
We would just say, oh, that is a space wizard. Makes perfect sense.
Exactly. But putting this entity in a quiet, slightly run-down residential neighborhood, it creates this profound cognitive dissonance.
It really does.
The setting grounds the absurdity. It is a recognizable reality, like a mid-sized town anywhere in the world in the dead of February.
Yeah, you have the brick row houses flanking the left side, the leafless trees.
The cracked pavement.
Right. And that white sedan parked in the background of every single image, it just anchors the scene in the everyday.
It forces the viewer to accept that this being isn't in a fantasy realm. They are walking down our street.
Right, our street. And before we get to the massive golden objects they are dragging down this street, we have to look at the figure themselves.
We do.
Because the body of the wielder is just as aggressively normal as the white car. They are wearing a very specific repeating uniform.
Very specific.
It is casual, maybe even a little sloppy, slightly wrinkled blue jeans, and this distinct short-sleeved hoodie.
And the sartorial choices are incredibly precise across all 19 iterations. It's a white torso with vibrant red short sleeves.
Yeah, and a matching red hood.
Right, a red hood attached to the collar, complete with those red drawstrings just hanging loose.
Hanging right there.
It evokes the aesthetic of a college graphic tee or casual streetwear.
Totally.
It implies a human body underneath. A person who wakes up, puts on pants one leg at a time, and just throws on a hoodie.
But the chest has this massive, unavoidable emblem. It looks like a corporate logo designed by an esoteric cult or something.
It really does.
It is a perfect circle, almost like a primary color yin-yang, but it is swirling with this deep red, a bold yellow, and this really intense blue.
Yes.
And the curves are absolutely perfect. They swirl into one another without ever mixing into mud. It just looks branded.
Well, the use of those primary colors is a classical artistic technique to establish foundational reality.
Oh, really?
Yeah, red, yellow, and blue are the building blocks of all other colors.
Right, right.
So by placing them on the chest in this perfectly proportioned swirl, the creator is signaling a foundational elemental order.
Wow, okay.
It is a visual anchor.
Yeah.
But it is an anchor that is immediately ripped away when your eyes move up past the collar.
The head. The thing that makes you physically jolt back from the table when you first flip over these images.
It is jarring.
Because there is no head. There's no neck. There's not even a shadow where a neck should be,
Right.
Floating directly above the collar of that red hood is a gray wireframe 3D geometric cube.
And based on the visual angles and the intersecting transparent planes, we are looking at a rhombohedron.
Go ahead.
Or, more accurately, a visual representation of a tesseract.
Just to make sure we are all visualizing this correctly, I mean, a tesseract is basically a four-dimensional cube projected into our three-dimensional space, right?
Exactly.
Like a cube inside a cube, connected by those angled lines.
That is the most common visual representation, yes.
Yes.
It is pure, stark geometry.
Yeah.
You know, sharp angles, stark gray lines, transparent planes. There is absolutely nothing biological about it.
Nothing at all.
And placing that on top of a human body, it completely short-circuits our biological hardwiring.
I kept thinking of this guy as a reverse superhero.
Oh, I like that.
Because if you think about Batman or Spider-Man, they wear these flashy, high-tech, utterly alien costumes, right?
Right, the suit is the spectacle.
But there is a human face under the mask. There is a human identity operating the suit. This wielder is the exact inverse.
That is true.
The costume is just a guy walking to a convenience store in jeans and a hoodie. But the identity, the face, is completely alien.
That inversion is the mechanical core of why these images are so disturbing.
Yeah.
Human beings are biologically programmed for facial recognition. From the moment we are born, our brains are desperate to find eyes,
We want to see a face.
a mouth, a human expression. We use faces to gauge intent. You know, is this person a threat? Are they friendly? Are they sad?
We want to know the emotional state of the thing walking toward us.
Exactly. So by replacing the face with cold, unfeeling mathematics, the artist completely denies us that biological comfort.
Wow.
The wireframe box provides zero emotional data. It essentially functions as a mirror, deflecting our gaze.
Because you can't read it?
Right. You cannot look at the tesseract for long because there is no human connection to anchor your empathy or your fear, for that matter.
Right.
So our eyes naturally bounce off the geometric void and travel downward to find another source of information.
We look down because we are desperate for a clue about what this thing wants.
Precisely.
And when our eyes drop, they land on the hands. And that is where things go from weird to deeply intimidating.
Yes, the arsenal.
Because the wielder is carrying these massive, ornate, gleaming metal objects, the rhombohedronic phi tools.
The sheer physical presence of these tools is overwhelming. Across the sources, they appear to be forged from solid brass or gold.
Yeah, they have that heavy yellow sheen.
And they are intricate. They feature complex, interlocking geometric blocks, gear-like cogs, thick, telescopic handles, and these heavy wrench-like clamps.
They look incredibly heavy. I am looking at the posture of the wielder right now, and this is not someone casually carrying a briefcase.
Not at all.
Their arms are locked out straight, pulled down by immense gravity. The hands are gripping these things with obvious strain.
You can see the tension in the jeans and the shoulders.
Yeah, you can almost feel the physical toll, the density of these objects pulling the wielder's shoulders down toward the concrete.
And that physical weight mirrors the conceptual weight.
How is so?
Well, the name of the tools, the phi tools, references the Greek letter phi, which represents the golden ratio,
Oh, right.
the mathematical value of roughly 1.618.
Right, the golden ratio. It is the blueprint for efficiency in the natural world.
Yes.
It is the exact mathematical spiral you see in a hurricane or a nautilus shell or, the way leaves distribute themselves on a stem to catch the maximum amount of sunlight.
Exactly. It was also the mathematical foundation used by classical architects
Right.
to build things like the Parthenon or the great European cathedrals. It is the mathematical pursuit of aesthetic and structural perfection.
So, holding phi tools implies that this entity is carrying instruments designed to measure or manipulate or maybe enforce the source code of reality itself.
Yes, and we see the visual echo of this perfection in the perfect primary color swirl on their chest and the tesseract on their head.
Okay, but you are calling these instruments of measurement, tools for building reality.
Oh, yeah.
But honestly, looking at image 14 and image 17, those look like maces to me.
I can see why you would say that.
They look like heavy, blunt force weapons. I see a massive flat edge on one of them and a spiked cog on the other. I am struggling to see how you build a universe with something meant to shatter a skull. Are we looking at an architect or a warrior?
Well, the ambiguity in their design is entirely the point.
Okay.
In the realm of sacred geometry, the philosophy that the universe is constructed on divine mathematical principles, creation and destruction, are not opposites.
Wait, really?
They are different phases of the exact same process.
Oh, like needing to tear down an old building before you can pour a new foundation?
On a cosmic scale, yes. To impose perfect geometric order, you must first clear away chaos.
That makes sense.
If these tools possess the heavy, terrifying capability to measure the exact distance between atoms, Well, their sheer mass suggests they also have the power to crack reality open if it does not align with that measurement.
Wow.
The wielder is carrying the burden of both tasks simultaneously.
It is fascinating that you mentioned the sheer physical mass and density of those golden tools, because that weight is not just in the narrative of the image.
No, it is not.
It is baked into the very chemistry of how these images were actually created. When we look at the stack of 19 sources, we are not just looking at 19 slightly different pictures.
No, we are looking at a violent collision of two entirely different artistic mediums.
Exactly.
The technical execution of this collection is a puzzle in itself. We can divide the sources into two distinct realities.
Let's do that.
Let us examine the first group, which includes images 2, 3, 10, 11, 12, 14, and 17.
Okay, so this group, it has a very distinct, almost amateur internet vibe. They look like raw, unedited photographs taken on a smartphone.
They really do. The lighting is flat, standard overcast daylight.
Yeah, very natural but dull.
It appears as though an actual person dressed up in physical blue jeans and a red and white hoodie constructed physical props out of wood or plastic, painted them gold, and walked down a real suburban street.
Right, well, someone snapped candid photos. It is essentially a cosplay photo shoot.
Yes.
But the head completely ruins the illusion. The gray wireframe cube in these photographs does not look like a physical prop they wore on their shoulders.
Not at all.
It looks like a terrible digital paste-up, like someone opened the raw photo in a decades-old version of MS Paint and just dragged a low-resolution digital box over the person's real head.
The lack of integration is glaring. The digital cube casts no shadow on the red collar.
None.
It does not react to the ambient overcast lighting of the street.
Yeah.
It is stubbornly, artificially flat, hovering in a space composed entirely of digital pixels, superimposed over a photographic reality.
It looks like a cheap internet meme, a quick Photoshop job meant to get a laugh on a message board or something.
It certainly does.
But then you flip over the rest of the stack. Images 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 13, 15, 16, 18, and 19.
The second group.
And suddenly, you are not looking at a cheap meme anymore. You are looking at fine art.
Yes. This second group consists of masterful, heavily textured oil paintings. They employ a technique known as impasto.
Okay, for anyone who hasn't heard that term, impasto is when the artist lays the paint down so thickly that it stands off the canvas.
Right. Exactly.
Think of Vincent van Gogh's The Starry Night. You do not just see the colors, you see the physical ridges of the brushstrokes.
Right.
You can feel the emotion and the labor and the texture of the paint itself.
And every element of the mundane street and the wielder is meticulously rendered in these thick, deliberate strokes in these images.
It is wild.
The folds in the wrinkled jeans have actual physical depth on the canvas. The metallic gleam of the heavy golden phi tools is achieved through carefully blended, heavy ridges of yellow and white oil paint.
It is so detailed.
The leafless winter branches are not just dark lines, they are thick, raised veins of black paint.
It is breathtaking. It elevates the entire scene from a goofy internet joke into something that belongs in a museum gallery.
It really does.
But the gray cube is still there.
And this is where the cognitive dissonance reaches its absolute peak.
Yeah.
In almost all of these beautiful impasto paintings, the artist painstakingly rendered the entire world in rich, thick oils.
Right.
Except for the wireframe tesseract on the head.
It looks like a glitch in the Matrix. You have this gorgeous, swirling, textured painting of a red hoodie, and sitting right on top of it is that exact same flat, low-resolution, MS Paint-style digital box.
It is so strange.
It stubbornly refuses to become part of the painting. It is like someone took a priceless canvas and slapped a digital sticker on it.
The visual clash between the tactile reality of thick oil paint and the flat, artificial void of digital artifacting, it is incredibly jarring. It is an intentional violation of the medium. Except, as we look through the stack, there is one sole exception.
Image 1.
In image 1 alone, the anomaly is resolved.
It is fully integrated.
Yes, the wireframe rhombohedron is finely painted with the same thick impasto oil texture as the background, the clothing, and the tools.
Wow.
The sharp gray lines and transparent planes have actual brushstrokes. The alien mathematics have finally been integrated into the physical world of the canvas.
Here is where it gets really interesting for me.
Yeah.
Looking at the cheap digital photos next to these masterful, time-consuming oil paintings, I am struck by the chronology.
What do you mean?
It is like finding a rough, chaotic sketch scrawled on a diner napkin and then walking into the Louvre and seeing that exact sketch blown up into a massive, meticulously crafted mural. Which reality came first?
Ah, the chicken and egg scenario of modern digital art.
Right. Did some random person take a candid photo of their friend walking down the street, slap an MS Paint box on their head for a joke, post it online?
Mm-hmm.
And then a master oil painter saw it and was so moved by the absurdity that they spent hundreds of hours recreating it in impasto.
It is a fascinating theory.
Or is it the other way around? Was the master artist staging a reference photo?
Oh, like a study.
Exactly. Did they have a model put on the clothes and hold some props just to get the lighting and posture right, adding the digital box as a temporary placeholder before committing it to a massive oil canvas?
Whichever direction the inspiration flowed, the tension it creates for us as viewers is profound.
It really is.
By taking an absurd, inherently cheap internet motif, the badly pasted digital box,
Yeah.
and forcing it into a prestigious, historically significant medium like impasto oil painting, the artist refuses to let us look away.
They elevate the absurdity.
Exactly. The sheer labor required to paint the reflection on that generic white sedan or the golden cogs of the Phi tools demands respect.
It does.
You cannot dismiss these images as a quick joke, because the craftsmanship forces you to take the subject seriously. The medium validates the wielder.
It demands that we treat this faceless geometry-headed figure as a legitimate subject of fine art. So, what does this all mean?
That is the big question.
We have got this incredibly heavy, esoteric imagery planted squarely in the middle of a depressing Tuesday commute.
Yeah.
Why should someone listening to this deep dive right now care about the relentless repetition of this bizarre wielder?
Well, the impact lies in the metaphor of the environment. The wielder is a being composed of high-level abstraction.
Right.
Sacred geometry, tesseracts, the golden ratio. But they're trapped on a cracked concrete sidewalk in a generic suburb.
They're completely out of place.
They possess cosmic specialized knowledge. They are holding tools capable of measuring the universe.
Yeah.
But they cannot use those golden tools to fix the pothole in front of them. They cannot use the golden ratio to start the engine of that white sedan.
Hearing you describe that, I cannot help but see a terrifying reflection of our modern daily lives, the modern knowledge worker.
How so?
Well, we live in this era of absolute information overload. We are constantly swimming in augmented reality, notifications, and complex digital abstractions.
We are constantly overlaying the digital onto the physical.
Exactly. And the wielder is the ultimate physical manifestation of that reality. Think about your own life.
Okay.
You are walking down a totally normal street, holding a cup of coffee, waiting for the crosswalk light to change. Physically, you are just a person in jeans and a hoodie standing next to a parked car.
Right. Physically present.
But mentally, you might be carrying the weight of a massive database architecture or analyzing complex legal precedents or balancing a sprawling financial ledger.
The heavy golden burden of specialized abstract knowledge.
Yes. And your head is not even in the physical world. Your head is lost inside a digital geometric cloud, just like the wielder.
That is a very apt comparison.
You are physically present on the sidewalk, but your identity, your focus, is entirely consumed by this wireframe tesseract of data.
If we take your idea of the modern knowledge worker, the tragedy of the wielder becomes even sharper.
What do you mean?
When you look at all 19 of these images in succession, the overwhelming emotion isn't fear or awe.
What is it?
It is a profound sense of isolation.
Because they are surrounded by the real world, but they cannot interact with it.
Exactly. Their knowledge is immense, but in the context of the everyday world they are walking through, it is entirely alienating.
Yeah.
The tesseract deflects human connection. The tools are too heavy and too specialized for mundane tasks.
That is so true.
They are masters of the abstract, but they walk through the real world as isolated ghosts, unable to interface with the simple reality of a winter afternoon.
That is a hauntingly beautiful way to look at it. We are all carrying these massive, invisible tools entirely trapped inside our own geometric box.
We are.
And that profound sense of isolation brings us toward the end of our journey today. We have completely decoded the anatomy of this figure.
From the lived-in denim to the stark primary color logo acting as a false anchor of reality.
We have analyzed the terrifying weight and ambiguity of the Rhomobhedronic phi tools,
unpacking the sacred geometry, the golden ratio, and the razor-thin line between creation and destruction.
and we explored the absolute mind-bending clash of mediums, the cheap, flat digital MS Paint aesthetic violently inserted into the tactile, heavy, emotional world of impasto oil painting.
But before we wrap this deep dive, I know we have one final piece of the puzzle to look at.
Right.
Something that builds on the physical texture of those beautiful, thick oil paintings.
Okay, I'm ready. What is it?
We spent a considerable amount of time analyzing the massive golden phi tools as objects within the narrative of the image.
Yeah, we debated whether they were architectural calipers or blunt force maces.
But if we pull back and look at the actual texture of the paint, specifically in images 4 through 19 and the fully integrated image 1,
Okay.
a much more surreal possibility emerges.
What are we missing about the tools?
Look at the shapes again. The wide, flat edges. The heavy, blocky contraptions. The rigid, trowel-like handles.
Yeah.
If these are truly instruments of creation, and we are viewing a world composed of incredibly thick, physical ridges of oil paint, what if the wielder isn't just a subject trapped inside a painting?
Oh, wow. Are you saying, well, what are you saying?
What if those heavy golden objects are not weapons? What if they are massive, esoteric palette knives?
The very tools used to scrape, mix, and apply that heavy impasto paint onto the canvas.
Yes. The phi tools might literally be applying the physical matter of the world.
That is unbelievable.
The wielder isn't just walking down a mundane suburban street. They might be painting the street as they walk.
Rendering the cracked concrete, the white sedan, and the bare winter trees into existence with every heavy golden stroke.
Building their own reality, step by step.
They are not isolated in the world. They are generating the world around them, dragging the heavy burden of creation forward. That is a truly spectacular concept to walk away with. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the weird, the mathematically abstract, and the surprisingly poignant reality of a Tuesday in February.
It has been a fascinating journey.
The next time you find yourself walking down your own mundane street, lost in your own thoughts, take a second to look at the clash between the digital and the physical in your own life.
Who knows what heavy tools you might be carrying?
Until next time, keep questioning what you see.
Imagine looking out your front window on just a really bleak, overcast winter day. The trees are totally bare. You see a casual neighbor walking down the sidewalk toward your house.
Just a totally normal Tuesday.
Right, just completely mundane. They were wearing a standard t-shirt and blue jeans, perfectly normal, except their head is a floating, perfectly flat gray geometric wireframe.
Oh, man.
And their hands are gripping these massive, bizarre, just incredibly heavy golden artifacts.
Yeah, it feels like looking at a tear in the fabric of the mundane world, The juxtaposition is just so aggressive it almost hurts the eyes.
It really does. And since everyone listening has already been kind of poring over these 10 images, these 10 iterations of this exact same surreal scene, you know exactly how haunting that tear is.
Oh, absolutely.
We're looking at these variations today for our deep dive under the thematic banner of Jewel for Rhomobhedronic, and we're jumping straight into the deep end on this one because, well, the longer you look at that wireframe head, the more unsettling the math of this entire situation actually becomes.
It does. Because the math is where we really have to anchor ourselves here. When you look at the rhombohedronic anomaly across the sources, you quickly realize we aren't just dealing with a generic box.
Right, so it's just a square.
Exactly. A rhombohedron is a very specific three-dimensional figure. It is like a cube but its faces are rhombi, not squares.
This is sort of pushed over.
Yeah, it is essentially a slanted, skewed version of a perfect box. And it's rendered in this stark, completely textureless gray with these incredibly thin, black structural lines.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to me, it looks like an early 1990s 3D rendering glitch.
Oh, yeah, I can see that.
Or maybe like a reverse augmented reality filter. Usually, use an AR filter to map something organic over a digital image like dog ears on a selfie or whatever.
Right, right.
But here, the texture mapping of reality itself has failed.
Yeah.
It just left behind a placeholder, like a raw geometric asset that forgot to load its high-resolution textures.
That glitch aesthetic is crucial to understand. But what really strikes me is the deliberate lack of environmental integration.
What do you mean by that?
We'll take the painted versions from our sources, like Image 1 or Image 4. The artist spent so much time painting the light, hitting the wrinkles of the t-shirt, the shadows casting down the legs, the reflections on the parked car in the background.
The detail is crazy.
It is. But that gray rhombohedron completely ignores the lighting of the environment.
Oh, wow.
It casts absolutely no shadow on the figure's neck. It receives no ambient light from the overcast sky. It's just flat.
It's completely disconnected.
Exactly. It implies that the mind of this figure has been entirely replaced by, or maybe consumed by, this abstract structure. They've become pure, cold calculation.
See, I actually look at it differently.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't think they've become the math. I think the geometry is a sensory deprivation cage. Like a rigid framework they're trapped inside of. When you look at the raw asset, it doesn't look like a higher state of consciousness to me. It looks like a prison.
A prison? Okay, wait, elaborate on that.
Well, the lines denote an interstructural vertex, right?
Yeah.
But the panels are opaque matte gray. They can't see out, and we can't see in. The identity hasn't been replaced by a higher frequency. It's been completely redacted.
I mean, I see where you're coming from, but look at the posture.
The way they're walking.
Yeah. If it were a prison, you would expect a physical struggle, or at least a posture of defeat, right? Slumped shoulders, hesitation.
I guess so.
But the wireframe sits squarely on the shoulders, dominating the visual hierarchy of the whole composition. The entity isn't fighting the geometry. The calm forward momentum suggests they're operating in complete alignment with that theoretical space.
Even if it's forced on them.
Right. Even if that space has been violently superimposed onto a physical body, they've accepted it.
I see the forward momentum, sure, but I read that calmness is purely mechanical, which I think brings us to the brutal physics of what their hands are actually doing.
Yeah, the hands, yeah.
Because if the head exists in this weightless, theoretical, shadowless realm you're talking about, the hands are dealing with something incredibly heavy and physical, those golden artifacts.
Right, the jewels from our title. And the variations across the 10 images here are so specific.
They really are.
Like in Image 1, the object in the right hand has this distinct red cylindrical handle resembling a ceremonial scepter.
Yeah, it looks almost regal.
Exactly. And it's paired with a diamond-shaped buckle at the waist. But by the time you get to Image 6 or Image 10, those objects completely shift.
They get way more aggressive.
They do. They lose that clean, regal aesthetic and become these jagged, elongated structures.
Yeah.
They resemble heavy mechanical brackets or just oversized golden tools.
See, I don't buy that they're just ceremonial jewels. Or even simple tools. Look at the grip.
The way they're holding them?
Yeah, you call them heavy mechanical brackets, but there is an intense strain in how they're holding them.
Yeah.
Look at the thick oil paintings, especially Image 5 and Image 9. The artist really emphasizes the musculature and the sheer strain in the forearms. I think these are dimensional anchors.
Dimensional anchors. Okay, you're going to have to walk me through that one.
Yes. Okay, think about it. The wireframe head doesn't obey the lighting, the shadows, or the physics of the world. It is floating in its own mathematical void, like you said.
Right, it's not interacting with the environment.
Exactly. So what if those heavy golden objects are the only things keeping this entity tethered to our gravity?
Oh, wow.
We look at them and see the color of precious metals, right? We imply wealth. But their scale and jagged edges scream sheer density.
They look incredibly dense.
What if it's not wealth they're carrying, but a necessary agonizing gravitational weight just to keep them from glitching entirely out of our reality?
And that reframes the tension in their arms entirely.
Right.
It shifts the narrative from a figure carrying a burden of value to a figure fighting a constant kinetic battle to just exist in this space. It is an act of agonizing preservation. You have this massive, jagged golden machinery, which looks almost industrial contrasting against the mystical hue of the gold itself. Wielding them requires immense, constant physical exertion.
Just to take a single step forward.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And honestly, it makes the absolute mundanity of their clothing even more startling.
Oh, absolutely.
If you're a dimension-hopping entity hauling golden gravity anchors, why are you wearing standard blue jeans and a short-sleeved baseball tee?
It makes no sense. But it's so specific.
Well, the clothing grounds the figure, but it also delivers the fillet of our thematic title.
The emblem on the chest.
Right. The jeans are unremarkable, yes, but the chest emblem on that white, red-sleeved t-shirt is highly intentional. It is a prominent circular design divided into 3 primary color zones.
And it's exactly the same in every image.
Every single one. You have a soil red section, a deep ocean blue section anchoring the bottom, and an organic yellow-green on the right side.
Before we dig into that specific emblem, though, let's actually define phi for a second so we all understand what we're dealing with. We're talking about the golden ratio, right? Approximately 1.6118.
Correct, yes. Phi is the mathematical ratio found throughout the natural world. It dictates the Fibonacci sequence.
Right.
It is the blueprint for the spiral of a galaxy, the pattern of a hurricane, the chambers of a nautilus shell, the arrangement of leaves on a stem. It is the fundamental mathematics of organic growth and natural proportion.
Which is just an incredible contrast when you put it next to the head. We have the rhombohedron on the head, artificial, rigid, skewed math that casts literally no shadow. And on the chest, right over the heart, we have phi, the math of organic, grounded, living nature.
And the visual language of the emblem reinforces that grounding completely. The colors are deeply tied to the earth.
Soil, ocean, plants.
Exactly. It represents earthly cycles and natural proportion. You have the messy, proportionate, colorful reality of the human body and the natural world, topped by the sterile, colorless, alien math of the head.
But notice the formatting of that phi emblem, because it isn't a beautiful, sweeping nautilus shell.
No, it's very rigid.
It's formatted like a pie chart.
Yeah.
It looks like a corporate logo. What if that emblem isn't a grounding symbol at all? What if it's an ownership tag?
An ownership tag applied to the concept of nature itself.
Exactly. Or an ownership tag on the human body itself. We're looking at a figure whose head has been replaced by cold, theoretical calculation. Maybe the shirt isn't a celebration of organic growth. Maybe it's a corporate badge that has literally commodified the golden ratio.
Oh, man.
They took the profound, natural math of the universe and slapped it onto a cheap t-shirt like a branding iron.
That perfectly captures the modern condition, doesn't it?
It really does.
The tension between the profound mysteries of existence and the cheap, mass-produced reality of our daily lives. If this figure were wearing sweeping mystical robes or futuristic armor, we would instantly categorize it as fantasy.
Yeah, we just put it in the sci-fi box and move on.
Right. The surreal elements would lose their edge because the context would also be surreal.
But because they're wearing blue jeans with like actual creases around the knees, we can't dismiss
They
it.
can't. They belong to our world. And that brings us to arguably the most fascinating data point in this entire stack of sources.
Oh, I know where you're going with this.
The artistic medium itself.
Here's where it gets really interesting, folks. Look at the impasto versions first. Images 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9.
Right, the paintings.
Yeah. The artist is literally building the world out of thick, physical chunks of paint. You can see the swirling brush strokes in the blue jeans, the heavy dabs of white paint making up the parked car.
It's very tactile.
Very. The environment has this topological depth to it. It is a chaotic, turbulent physical presence.
It insists on its own materiality. The oil paint is wet, heavy, and messy. You can almost smell it.
Exactly. But then look at images 2, 3, and 10. They completely abandon that physical presence.
It's a totally different medium.
They look like low-resolution digital photos or video stills pulled from a 2008 flip phone.
Yeah, very compressed.
The colors are muted, the edges are soft. The universe around the figure has fundamentally changed its physical laws, from tactile oil paint to blurry, compressed digital pixels.
Yet there is one terrifying constant in all of this. Across both the thick oil paint and the blurry digital media, the gray wireframe cube on the head never changes its texture.
Never. Not once. It doesn't blur in the photos, and it doesn't gain a single brushstroke of depth in the paintings. It is completely independent of the medium.
And from an ontological perspective, this is staggering.
It really is.
If the rhombohedron were a physical object existing within the world of the subject, it would be subjected to the rendering rules of that world.
Right, it would have brushstrokes.
It would be painted with impasto strokes, or it would be out of focus in the camera lens. The fact that it remains perfectly flat, digital, and sharp proves it is an overlay.
It makes me think of like an architect who accidentally left their digital drafting lines on a printed photograph of a finished building.
Oh, that's a perfect analogy.
The universe changes, but the drafting lines, the core mathematical truth, are totally immune to the physics of the reality they inhabit.
It functions almost like a multiverse anchor.
A multiverse anchor. I love that.
Right. The reality shifts from paint to pixels, the environment changes its rendering engine entirely, but the geometric isolation of the mind is universal. It persists.
It persists everywhere.
Yeah.
Which is why we should probably look at where exactly everywhere is. Let's actually look at that environment.
Yeah.
Because no matter what medium we're looking through, the setting is relentlessly mundane. Where exactly is this entity walking?
They are walking through a completely ordinary residential street.
Yeah.
The background details are remarkably consistent across all 10 sources. On the left side of the frame, there are these dark brick row houses or apartment buildings.
Very typical of an older East Coast American suburb or like the outskirts of a city.
Precisely. There is a white sedan parked on the street right behind the figure. Above, the sky is obscured by a canopy of bare, wintry trees.
Just gray and depressing.
Yeah. The figure is walking on a concrete sidewalk, and in several images, you can distinctly see large, jagged cracks in the pavement. On the right side, there is a small, nondescript house or like a pale shed.
This is what terrifies me about these images. It's an East Coast Tuesday.
Yeah.
It's bleak. The colors are muted. The sky is a flat gray sheet. The trees look totally dormant. It is the absolute definition of unremarkable.
And that juxtaposition is the engine of the entire series. This entity is not navigating a cyberpunk dystopia or some abstract cosmic void.
Right, they aren't on Mars.
No. They are walking past a parked white sedan, and they are navigating our world.
It exposes the fragility of our routine, I think. We operate under this unconscious assumption that the world will always hold its shape, that tomorrow will look exactly like yesterday. We assume the person walking down our sidewalk will have a human face. The intrusion of the surreal into a space this aggressively mundane proves how little it takes to completely shatter our reality.
It's so true.
If you saw this walking past your car, you wouldn't even know how to process it because the human brain has no filing cabinet for mathematical wireframe entity hauling dimensional anchors in suburbia.
It just doesn't compute. And when we synthesize the Jill for rhombohedronic exploration, we uncover a narrative built entirely on these severe contrasts.
Right.
It is the pure abstract math of the mind colliding with the agonizing physical burdens of the hands. It is the organic, natural proportion of phi reduced to a commodified emblem on a cheap t-shirt.
Yeah.
And it is a truth that persists independently of reality itself, slicing through both oil paint and digital pixels without ever being altered by them.
It is the ultimate uncompromising portrait of existence, pushed to its most surreal extreme.
Yeah.
But I do want to leave you with a final thought today.
Okay.
Something to mull over on your own as you review these images. We've spent this time breaking down the math, analyzing the weight of the gold, the corporate nature of the uniform, and the fabric of the realities they were walking through.
We've covered a lot of ground.
We have. But look at the momentum in these frames. The figure isn't standing still, posing for a portrait.
No, they're in motion.
They are walking forward with steady, unyielding purpose, directly toward the viewer in every single frame. If their mind is a sealed geometric puzzle we can't penetrate, and their hands are filled with heavy golden machinery keeping them tethered to our gravity, what are they planning to do when they finally reach us? picture this.
Okay.
You are walking down a perfectly ordinary residential street.
Right.
It's overcast. Maybe a Tuesday in February.
The worst kind of day.
Exactly. The air has that damp, wintry chill to it. And you're looking at the cracked concrete of the sidewalk, the bare, shivering branches of the trees.
Yeah.
Maybe a white sedan parked on the curb just up ahead. Everything is intensely, almost oppressively normal.
Just completely mundane.
Completely. And then you look up, and walking right toward you is a figure.
Okay.
But where their human head should be, there is a stark, gray, three-dimensional geometric wireframe floating right above their shoulders.
Wow.
Yeah. And in their hands, they are dragging these massive, inexplicable, heavy, golden objects.
Oh, man. It creates this immediate, almost visceral friction in the brain.
Yes, it does.
Because we rely heavily on environmental context, to tell us how to interpret a threat or an anomaly.
Right.
And throwing highly abstract geometry into the middle of a mundane Tuesday morning, well, it completely short-circuits that process.
It completely breaks your reality. And the thing is, we aren't just imagining this scene either.
No, we are.
This is our focus for this deep dive. We have a stack of sources containing 10 distinct visual iterations of this exact scenario.
10 of them.
10 different artists, or maybe 10 different vantage points capturing the same bizarre reality.
It's wild.
It really is. So our mission today is to deconstruct this recurring motif. We're going to explore how this hyper-mundane setting collides with these surreal elements.
Right, the intersection of the two.
Exactly. And specifically, we're going to decode those heavy golden artifacts the figure is dragging.
Yes.
The objects that all the sources collectively refer to as tool for Rhomobhedronic.
Which is such a mouthful.
It is a massive mouthful.
But it's key.
The term itself is a puzzle, but it holds the key to the physical mechanics of what we're looking at here.
Yeah.
It blends utility and classical mathematics and complex spatial geometry all into a single concept. Absolutely. But before we get to the tools themselves, I feel like we need to understand the space this entity is occupying.
We have to ground it first.
Right. Because the background is aggressively consistent across all 10 images.
It really is.
It is a typical neighborhood sidewalk. You look at it and you see these classic red brick row houses on the left.
Very standard architecture.
Yeah, and they're looking entirely unbothered by the cosmic anomaly out front. And you see those spindly, leafless winter trees just kind of scratching at a flat gray sky.
Feels cold just looking at it.
It does. And then there's that parked white sedan.
Ah, the sedan.
The sedan. Why do you think that car is so important? Because to me, it acts as an anchor.
It totally does.
It forces the viewer to accept that this is not a science fiction landscape.
Yeah.
This is the physical, lived-in world.
That white sedan is like the ultimate symbol of suburban anonymity.
Yes.
When artists or filmmakers, think of the surrealist suburban tableaus of Gregory Crewdson.
Oh, right.
Or the unsettling neighborhoods in David Lynch films.
Well, absolutely. Blue Velvet vibes.
Exactly. When they want to make something truly terrifying or profound, they don't put it in a haunted castle.
No, they don't.
They put it next to a parked mid-sized sedan.
Because it's so familiar.
Right. The contrast is what generates the power. The organic decay of the winter trees and the cracked concrete, they highlight the absolute flawlessness of the figure's head.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because the head completely rejects the physical rules of the street.
It does.
Looking at it, it reminds me of a digital augmented reality filter that just failed to load a texture.
Oh yeah, like a glitch.
Yeah, exactly. Like a 1990s computer screensaver just got pasted over a gritty indie movie scene.
Yeah.
Just get this raw, transparent, gray wireframe made of sharp black lines.
And it's hovering right where the head should be.
Right over the shoulders. And the shape itself is this complex cube, a rhombohedron, or more specifically, it looks like a 4D tesseract.
A cube suspended inside another cube. What's fascinating here is the decision to replace the human face with a tesseract. It's a calculated removal of empathy.
How so?
Well, the human face is a biological dashboard right now. It is how we read intent.
Oh, sure.
It's how we gauge emotion and assess whether a stranger on the sidewalk is a threat or not.
We look for a smile or a scowl.
Exactly. But by stripping that away and replacing it with this cold, sharp, rhombohedral geometry, the figure ceases to be a person.
Right.
They become a walking symbol, a proxy for unapproachable, higher dimensional logic.
But is it actually representing higher logic, though?
You don't think so?
I could push back on that a bit. Sometimes artists just use complex geometric shapes because they look cool.
Fair enough.
Or edgy, Not necessarily because the entity is a walking calculator.
Well, that is a fair challenge.
Yeah.
But if we look at this specific geometry of a tesseract, the mathematical implications are really hard to ignore.
Okay, lay it on me.
So a tesseract is the four-dimensional analog of a cube.
Right. Math class is coming back to me.
Bear with me. Because we are three-dimensional beings, we cannot physically perceive four-dimensional space.
My brain certainly can't.
Right. We can only see its three-dimensional shadow.
Oh, okay.
Just as a 2D stick figure would only see a cross-section of a 3D apple passing through its flat world.
Oh, wow. That's a great way to picture it.
Yeah, so we are only seeing a 3D slice of whatever this entity actually is.
That's trippy.
The wireframe head suggests that the rest of this being's mind exists in a dimension we cannot even access.
Okay, so we have this unfathomable, higher dimensional intellect floating down the street.
Yes.
But if this entity's mind is composed entirely of abstract math, how does it physically anchor itself to a suburban sidewalk?
That is the big question.
Right. And the answer seems to be the uniform.
The clothing.
Yeah. Moving down from the head, the closing grounds the anomaly. It drags it back into that Tuesday morning reality.
The attire absolutely bridges the gap between the cosmic and the mundane.
It does.
The figure is wearing standard, everyday blue jeans.
Just normal denim.
Denim is a deeply practical, physical material. It suggests manual labor, walking, existing in a physical space with gravity and friction.
The jeans pull the figure down to earth. But the shirt sends a totally different message.
It really does.
It's a casual baseball-style tee with a stark white torso and incredibly vibrant primary red short sleeves.
Very sophisticated.
And a few of the sources even show bright red hoodie strings hanging down around the collar.
Like they're layered.
Right. But the colors are so saturated they seem to almost defy the gloomy winter background.
The palette choice there is highly deliberate.
You think?
Oh, definitely. The artist restricts the shirt entirely to primary colors. In art, red, yellow, and blue are the foundational elements of all pigment.
The building blocks.
Exactly. The artist is stripping the palette down to its most raw, elementary building blocks. This mirrors how the figure's head is stripped down to the foundational building blocks of spatial geometry.
Oh, that's a cool connection.
Yeah.
That makes sense in theory. But then you hit the emblem on the chest.
Ah, yes, the emblem.
I stared at this circular graphic for a long time trying to decode it.
It's perplexing.
It sits right in the center of the chest. And it's divided into distinct segments. There's a textured red section, a bright yellow section, and a swooping dark blue section at the bottom.
Kind of organic looking.
Yeah, it's vaguely like a three-part yin-yang. Or maybe a geological core sample that has just been sliced open.
That's a good description.
It frustrated me because it has the visual cadence of a corporate logo, but it's completely unreadable. Is it a cult insignia or just a very specific vintage graphic tee from a thrift store?
I think that ambiguity serves a specific function.
How so?
It straddles a line between a casual consumer choice and a uniform of deep significance.
Right.
Like you said, a cult insignia or maybe the logo of some interdimensional surveying company.
And a surveying company brings us directly to the core of this deep dive.
It does.
Because you don't wear a brightly colored baseball tee to perform mythic heavy labor.
No, you really don't.
And yet this figure is dragging these massive, absurd objects down the street.
Just hauling them.
If the uniform anchors them to the physical world, these tools seem to define their actual purpose here.
These are the tool for Rhomobhedronic artifacts.
There's that word again.
Yep. And their physical design requires really close inspection.
Let's do it.
They feature long, thick central shafts interrupted by chunky, flat rhombohedral attachments.
Like diamond shapes?
Exactly, diamond or skewed cube shapes that jet out aggressively, and they end in these heavy cylindrical caps.
They look incredibly heavy and awkward to carry, like a bizarre hybrid of technologies.
How would you describe them?
Well, one part of me sees steampunk scepters.
I can see that.
Another part sees archaic surveying instruments from the 1800s, but scaled up to an absurd size.
Right, like giant brass levels.
Yeah, exactly. Or maybe mechanical plumbing fixtures ripped out of a giant machine.
It's just raw metal.
Whatever they are, they look so awkward to hold. There's no ergonomic grip at all. It's just raw, unyielding metal.
Well, let's break down the term the sources use for them if we connect this to the bigger picture.
Please do.
Tool für Rhomobhedronic. Tool implies a function or a utility.
Right.
Rhombohedronic obviously points to the skewed cube geometry that mirrors the figure's wireframe head.
The physical manifestation of the head.
Exactly. But the most revealing part of that term is phi.
Phi. As in the golden ratio.
Yes, 1.688. The golden ratio is a mathematical concept that dictates the proportions of natural perfection.
Oh boy.
It governs the spiral of a nautilus shell, the branching of trees, the layout of petals on a flower, and even classical architecture like the Parthenon.
Right, it's the math of beauty, basically.
So if this entity is carrying toolify artifacts, they are dragging implements designed to measure or perhaps enforce perfect mathematical proportion.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Because that casts a really sinister shadow over the whole scene.
How do you mean?
You have this perfect higher dimensional mind carrying tools designed to enforce mathematical perfection.
Right.
But they are walking through a messy, organic, decaying winter suburb.
The real...
Yeah. The cracked concrete and the jagged trees, they do not adhere to the golden ratio.
No, they definitely don't.
So is this entity here to fix the physical world or pave over it? Are we absolutely sure these are tools of measurement or creation?
You're thinking something else.
I am. Looking at the sheer bulk of them and how aggressively they are being dragged, could they be weapons? Like ceremonial maces?
Oh. Redefining them as weapons changes the narrative entirely.
Doesn't it?
From one of construction to one of subjugation. A tool implies an intention to build or repair a space.
Right.
A weapon implies an intention to defend against the space or destroy it entirely.
Destroy it entirely.
Yeah.
Because I keep coming back to the posture of the figure.
The body language?
Yes.
Yeah.
They look like a video game character that is just over-encumbered with loot.
Yes.
You know when you pick up too many broadswords in a role-playing game and suddenly your character can only trudge along at a snail's pace?
And you just can't walk anymore.
Right. That is the exact body language we're seeing here. The figure is physically exhausted by these objects. They look incredibly heavy.
The burden of the artifacts is a crucial detail here.
Why is that?
Well, if the wireframe head represents higher knowledge and abstract truth,
Right.
and the golden tools are the physical manifestation of that truth.
Okay.
Carrying that truth into a mundane Tuesday is exhausting.
Oh, wow.
Pure math does not fit neatly into a suburban street. The gravity of the physical world actively resists it.
That is so profound. It makes you wonder about the destination. Like, where are they dragging these things?
Right.
The tension in these images
Yeah.
is just incredible. But this is where our stack of sources introduces a massive complication.
The plot twist.
The plot twist. We've established the setting, the entity, and the heavy golden artifacts. But the interpretation of this entire scene violently shifts depending on how we are looking at it.
The medium.
Yes. The medium completely dictates the reality.
The 10 sources are severely fractured in their artistic execution.
They really are. It's a complete stylistic split. 7 of our sources, so that's images 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9.
Right. The majority of them.
The majority are paintings. And they utilize a very specific technique called impasto.
Impasto.
Yeah, it's a post-impressionist style, where oil paint is laid onto the canvas so thickly that it creates physical peaks and ridges.
Impasto is basically sculptural.
Exactly.
The artist is literally building the image off the flat surface of the canvas. Because the paint is so thick, it catches the light in the room where it hangs, casting microscopic physical shadows.
Which is so cool.
So when you use impasto to paint a heavy golden tool, you aren't just creating the illusion of weight, you are applying actual physical mass to the canvas.
That is such a great point. It fundamentally elevates the subject matter.
It does.
When you look at the impasto paintings, the tool for Rhomobhedronic artifacts look impossibly dense.
Like they weigh a ton.
Yes.
Yeah.
The scene feels like a profound historical event, or a piece of classical mythology just being recorded for posterity. The figure isn't just a guy in a baseball tee. They are a titan carrying divine instruments forged in a higher dimension.
Oil paint carries an inherent cultural cachet anyway.
It really does.
It signals to the viewer that the subject is wealthy or important or permanent. It romanticizes the surrealism and demands reverence from the viewer.
It absolutely demands reverence. But then we look at the remaining 3 sources.
The photos.
Images 2, 3, and 10. These are not grand oil paintings. They are photographs.
And they are rough.
They are aggressively lo-fi. They look like they were taken on a cheap digital point-and-shoot camera from like 2005.
With all the digital artifacting.
Complete with blurry motion and pixelation. And the moment we switch this medium, the grand illusion shatters completely.
This raises an important question, because the transition from thick oil paint to degraded digital photography exposes what we might call a cardboard reality.
A cardboard reality.
In these low-res photos, those massive divine golden tools no longer look like brass.
No, they do not.
They look like crude, homemade cardboard props wrapped in brown packing tape.
It's wild. The majestic weight is instantly gone. The rhombohedral attachments just look like empty Amazon delivery boxes skewered on a wooden broom handle.
Just taped together.
Exactly. Now, the Tesseract head still looks like a digital wireframe pasted over the photo. But the physical tools are undeniably and frankly depressingly mundane.
They really are.
It looks like a guy doing a bizarre piece of performance art, just carrying his tape together, recycling out to the curb.
This stylistic split forces us to confront a really difficult philosophical question regarding the truth of our sources.
Because the visual data is identical.
Right. The street, the car, the shirt, the shapes, they are all the same. But the texture tells two completely conflicting stories.
We are basically looking at a chicken and egg scenario.
Oh, we are.
Does the photography reveal the truth, or does the painting? Which one came first, and which one is the reality?
Well, if the photography is the objective truth, then the court reality of this event is entirely mundane. A human being walked down a real street holding cardboard boxes taped to sticks.
A weird Tuesday, but a normal Tuesday.
Right. And later, an artist encountered this event, or maybe saw the blurry photos, and decided to romanticize it.
To elevate it.
They used the cultural weight of oil paint to elevate a cheap physical art project into a mythic event, turning packing tape into gold.
They painted the legend instead of the fact.
Exactly.
But the inverse scenario is infinitely more terrifying to me.
Oh, definitely.
What if the heavy golden mythic reality of the oil paintings is the objective truth?
Right.
What if an unfathomable, higher dimensional entity really did manifest in the suburbs carrying divine golden tools? But the physical world simply could not comprehend it.
That is a fascinating application of technological failure,
Right.
because early digital sensors struggled immensely with complex data, especially in low light or high motion.
Yeah, they just blur out.
So if a camera block was suddenly pointed at an object that defies three-dimensional physics, the sensor might simply fail to process the divine geometry.
It would just crash.
It would compress the visual data, downgrading the terrifying reality of the artifacts into something our human brains and our primitive technology could actually process.
Cardboard and tape.
Cardboard and tape.
I love that idea. The universe acting as a visual compressor to protect our sanity.
It's a great concept.
It completely shifts how we interpret the figure's burden, too.
How so?
Well, in the oil paintings, the figure is bowed under the immense literal gravity of absolute truth.
They are carrying the weight of the universe.
Right. But in the photographs, they just look socially awkward, like they're trying not to drop a fragile science fair project.
The medium acts as a filter for empathy.
That is good.
We fear the titan in the oil painting, but we pity the purser in the photograph.
Exactly.
The artifacts validate the wireframe mind in the paintings. It proves that the higher dimension has power and mass in our world.
Yeah.
But in the photographs, the artifacts betray the mind, suggesting the higher dimension is just a delusion constructed from household trash.
So distilling all this down, we are basically forced to hold both of these realities in our heads simultaneously.
We have to.
We have this consistent narrative of a geometric, emotionless entity invading a suburban space.
Right.
They wear a uniform that anchors them to our physical reality while utilizing foundational primary colors.
Yeah.
And they wield tool-Rhomobhedronic artifacts.
Artifacts designed to impose the golden ratio on a fractured world.
Exactly.
Artifacts that fluctuate violently between mythic gold and cheap cardboard, depending entirely on the lens we use to observe them.
So what does this all mean? Why does any of this matter to the listener, someone who is presumably sitting in a very normal three-dimensional room right now listening to us?
Right. Why should they care?
Because this deep dive is a masterclass in how context and medium construct our reality.
It really is.
We are constantly fed information through different filters. You know, a highly produced documentary shot on cinema lenses versus a grainy piece of cell phone footage on social media.
The aesthetics change the meaning.
The medium dictates whether we perceive an event as profound or trivial, a threat or a joke.
And beyond media literacy, there is a psychological layer here, too.
I think so, too.
We all harbor wireframe concepts in our own minds. We hold on to pure abstract logic or idealized political theories or perfect visions for how our lives and relationships should function.
The perfect ideal.
Right. And every day we attempt to force those perfect weightless ideas into the physical world.
We do. We try to build our own tool-Rhomobhedronic artifacts.
Exactly.
We attempt to forge physical tools out of abstract ideals. But the real world is resistant.
It fights back.
The real world is a chilly Tuesday in February with cracked concrete.
Yeah.
And frequently, when we try to drag our high-minded wireframe ideals down the sidewalk of reality, they don't look like gleaming mythic gold.
No, they don't.
They end up looking like cardboard and tape. They feel clumsy and fragile and heavy, and we become over-encumbered trying to force the world to bend to our math.
The struggle to manifest the ideal within the mundane is a universal human burden.
It truly is. As we conclude this deep dive, I want to leave everyone with a lingering thought to mull over.
All right.
Put yourself back on that overcast straight.
Okay.
The cold air is biting at your jacket, and this figure is walking toward you. If that rhombohedral wireframe head truly represents the realm of perfect, unfeeling math, and the neighborhood around it is raw, messy, organic, physical reality,
Well, that's a good question.
are those heavy golden tools meant to build a bridge between the two worlds, allowing us to finally grasp perfection? Or given the sheer awkward violence with which they're being dragged down the concrete, are they weapons meant to tear one of those worlds down entirely?